The strongest people in human history didn't have protein powders, pre-workout, or gym membership. And yet they were building pyramids, winning wars on foot, and farming land by hand from sunrise to sunset every single day. Today, we're going to be diving into the evolution of human strength through food, what our ancestors actually ate to build that kind of physical capability, and what we've been quietly dropped out of modern diets that might be costing us more than we realize. Now, as an obsession lately, I have spent a lot of time in this space studying how food and physical training intersect across thousands of years of human history. And some of what I found genuinely surprised me. So I think this one is going to be surprising to you as well. Now, this is coming from someone who has spent 30 years in fitness, working with clients, building strength, mobility, flexibility, and just overall healthy results for real people through my company, LIOI Systems. So if you appreciate this type of content, hit that like button. It actually helps this video reach more people who need it. So let's get into it. All right, first up, we've got organ meats. I know exactly what you're thinking. You're thinking, I'm not eating that. But stay with me, okay? Because this is probably the single most nutritionally dense food category that human beings have eaten for almost all of recorded history, and then quietly abandoned in the last 60 or 70 years. Now, organ meats, liver, heart, kidney, tongue, were not the leftover cuts that we see today. They were first thing that people ate after a hunt. That goes back tens of thousands of years across virtually every culture. Liver alone contains more concentrated vitamin A, B12, iron, and zinc, and copper per ounce than almost anything else you could put in your body. And here's the reason this matters for strength. Those micronutrients aren't decorative. Iron carries oxygen to muscles, zinc drives testosterone production, B12 keeps your nervous system firing correctly. Without those, your muscles are essentially trying to run a car on empty. The modern replacement for this? A multivitamin with a fraction of the bioavailability. Our ancestors got this stuff in its most absorbable form, straight from the source. I'd give organ meats an opportunity score of about 9.1 out of 10 for nutrient density. The barrier is psychological, it's not physical. And once you figure out how to actually cook these pretty well, most people are surprised. Now, next is bone broth. And this one doesn't get nearly enough credit in this fitness conversation. Because what our ancestors were doing when they boiled bones down for hours wasn't just making soup, they were extracting collagen, glycine, proline, and minerals directly from the connective tissue and marrow. Every culture that has access to animals made some version of this. Chinese medicine documented it thousands of years ago. Medieval European kitchens kept a perpetual stock pot going around the clock. You see it in every tradition that survived long enough to have a tradition. And so what does that mean for strength? Collagen is the most abundant protein in the human body. It's the scaffolding that holds joints together, keeps tendons and ligaments functional, and supports connective tissue that lets you actually use your muscle. You can have all the muscle mass in the world, and a torn ACL will shut that down completely. Recovery has become this massive industry now, and the simplest version of recovery is food that humans used for thousands of years. Bones, water, heat. That's it. There's a reason it's had a modern comeback. Collagen. It works. Now that gets an opportunity score of 8.6 out of 10 for accessible, cheap, and deeply underrated in modern training culture. Now, the third one is raw fermented dairy. And this is one where I want to be careful because the modern conversation around dairy is genuinely complicated. But historically, this is strength food. Mongolian warriors fueled incredibly long campaigns on fermented mare's milk. A drink called arag, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Greek athletes consumed large quantities of cheese and curdled milk. Entire agricultural communities in Northern Europe and Middle East and South Asia were built around fermented dairy as a calorie-dense, protein-rich staple. The key word here is fermented. The fermentation process breaks down the lactose, increases the bioavailability of certain nutrients, and introduces live bacteria that support our gut health. That in turn, deeply connected to inflammation and immune response, and how effectively your body uses the protein you're eating. Modern pasteurized low-fat dairy stripped a lot of that out. It's not the same product as it was before, and the distinction matters. Now, raw milk and dairy gets an opportunity score of 7.8 out of 10. It's a high value for those who can tolerate it well, but individual responses vary significantly. So, and by the way, if you're finding value in this so far, please drop a like on this video. It generally helps this content reach more people. And drop a comment below. What's one food from this list that you'll actually eat regularly? Who knows? I might make a video based on that, on what people are saying. Now, we get to the controversial one, animal fat. Tallow, lard, suet, the fat on the meat itself. This was not something our ancestors trimmed off and threw away. It was often the most valued part of the animal. Fat is calorie dense in a way that matters when your job is physical. A day of hard labor, farming, construction, or military marching burns an enormous amount of energy. We know this. Carbohydrates burn fast and drop off fast. Fat burns slow and steady. And for people doing 10 to 14 hours of physical work daily, slow and steady was the survival. The demonization of saturated fat happened in the second half of the 20th century, and the science behind it has been significantly revised since. I'm not going to go into deep into the research wars here back and forth, but what I will say is that for most of human history, people were eating animal fat freely, doing extraordinary amounts of physical labor, and the chronic disease patterns we associate with modern life simply weren't there at the same scale. Was fat the only variable? Absolutely not. But removing it entirely from the diet and replacing it with refined vegetable oils and processed carbohydrates was not the upgrade it was sold us as. Now, animal fat gets an opportunity score of about 8.2 out of 10 for a training fuel when consumed as part of a whole food diet. Whole food diet. All right. Fifth on this list is whole grains and legumes. I love saying it that way. And if they are prepared correctly, is what is necessary. Traditional food cultures soaked, sprouted, or fermented their grains and legumes before eating them. This wasn't just a cooking preference, it was practical technology that reduced anti-nutrients, increased mineral absorption, and made the protein more bioavailable. Sourdough bread is the most modern descendant of this practice. Traditional sourdough goes through a long fermentation that changes the nutritional profile of the wheat significantly compared to a fast-rise commercial loaf. This matters for strength because grains and legumes are the base layer of caloric intake for most traditional cultures that did sustained physical work. They are not the protein source, but they are the energy foundation that allows the protein to do its job. Carbohydrates fuel intense effort, and historically, those carbohydrates came packaged with fiber, minerals, slow digestion curves, not as refined flour with everything stripped out. Those get an opportunity score of 7.5 out of 10 with a solid base, but preparation method matters enormously. Now, quick break. One thing I want to mention, because it's relevant to everything that we're talking about today, is that all of this historical knowledge about food and strength is fascinating. But at some point, you need a plan that actually applies to your life and your body right now. That's exactly what we do at LIOI Systems. The LIOI method at LIOI.com is built around real sustainable programming that works for real people, not Instagram influencers, not elite athletes who have 6 hours to train on training days. But if you want correct coaching that actually keeps you moving and feeling better and fits your schedule, check the description below and head to LLIOI.com. I'll leave a link down in the description for you as well. Okay? Now, this video wouldn't be complete without the next one on this list: seafood and shellfish. And specifically, the mineral density in shellfish is one of the most underappreciated parts of historical human nutrition. Oysters are one of the most concentrated sources of zinc on the planet. Zinc, as I mentioned earlier, is directly tied to testosterone production and immune function. Sardines and other small fish were consumed whole, including the bones, which means you're getting calcium and phosphorus in a highly bioavailable form. Coastal populations have been building physical cultures around seafood for tens of thousands of years. The modern version of this, farmed, processed, stripped of fat, it's not the same nutritional product. The wild-caught distinction matters. And for people who aren't eating any seafood at all, the mineral gaps can be significant. Zinc, iodine, selenium, omega-3, the fatty acids, those aren't extras, they're infrastructure. So that gets an opportunity score of 9.0 out of 10, one of the most nutrient-complete food categories available, widely ignored in mainstream fitness culture. Now, last on this list, and this one might be the most accessible: eggs. Specifically whole eggs, not just the whites. Eggs contain every amino acid the human body needs. That's where the complete protein designation comes from. But the yolk is where most of the nutrition actually lives. Choline, the lutein, the vitamins A, D, E, K2, and a meaningful amount of healthy fat that slows the digestion of the protein and makes it more usable by the body. Cultures all over the world have raised chickens and eaten their eggs for thousands of years precisely because of this. Eggs are calorie efficient, protein dense, and portable. A hard-boiled egg travels. A bowl of oatmeal doesn't. The advice to avoid egg yolks for cholesterol reasons became mainstream in the latter half of the 20th century and has been largely walked back by current research. Our ancestors didn't separate the yolk out. They ate the whole egg because that's what works. Eggs get an opportunity score of 9.4 out of 10. They're cheap, they're complete, they're universally available, and backed by more history than almost any other food on that list. So, by the way, if you're putting in real work in the gym and you want to make sure your nutrition is actually supporting the training, I want to mention H2Cre. It's a powerful tool for athletes by fueling energy while ensuring optimal muscle function and fluid retention. It's creatine plus electrolytes in a single-serve packet. Performance that's portable. You can find out more information on H2Cre at LLIOI.com, and there'll be a link in the description below. So let's bring this all home now. What's the thread connecting all 7 of these foods? None of them are processed. All of them are dense, and all of them require a little bit of intention, either in how you source them, how you prepare them, or how you think about using them as fuel. The narrative that modern food is better food is not fully supported by the history of how human beings actually built physical strength. Our ancestors didn't have a lot of things we have now, but they had food that was whole, nutrient complete, and deeply connected to the physical demands that they were meeting every day. The gap between that and what most people are eating right now is significant. And the good news is you can close it. You don't need to eat like it's 3000 BC. You just need to stop defaulting to the most processed version of every food category and start moving back toward the real thing. So if you want to check out more on how food history intersects with modern strength training, make sure you subscribe to this channel as we will be covering more topics soon. If you haven't already, head over to LLIOI.com and check out the LIOI method. The link is in the description below. I want to thank you for watching and for getting this far, and this is going to be fun. So hope to see you on the next one.